There's been multiple creepypastas about Disney characters such as SadMouse.avi, Duck Pond, which is surprisingly close to the original FNAF's lore where someone wears a Donald Duck suit in order to go around William Aftoning some people. But one of the most infamous of all these stories was Abandoned by Disney. This video is about the whole Treasure Island series, but it wouldn't feel right to talk about the main games without explaining some of the lore behind its original inspiration. Long story short, there was a real-life abandoned island that Disney used to own called Discovery Island, but was changed slightly to fit the narrative of the creepypasta. There was quite a lot of controversy about this place within the fictional story, such as the production of McWally Palace, which was a fictional place that was first introduced in the iconic Jungle Book. If you've never been to an amusement park before, these locations are quite massive and need a lot of land to operate. So the local government supposedly made a deal with Disney, though it was never confirmed, claiming eminent domain of the locals' lands and homes, with the company promising job creation in order to boost tourism. If you don't understand why this is a bad thing, let me spell it out for you. Disney made a shady deal to basically kick people out of their homes in order to make some extra dough. Something real-life Disney most likely wouldn't have a problem doing, in all honesty. Obviously, many of the people who are now homeless due to Disney's greed are going to be quite upset, but even with all the people complaining about this incident, construction would soon begin in the late 1990s. Now, back to McWally Palace. If you've never seen a Jungle Book somehow, made in 1967, okay, maybe I'm just getting old. But the story was set inside of India, where McWally was abandoned in the jungle as just a little boy, being found by a pack of wolves who raised him and causes him to meet many different animals to become friends with. Basically, just imagine Tarzan but with more animals, and the story is mostly set with him as a child. Now, in concept, this story is relatively harmless. However, if you make the locals within the area start dressing up in loincloths and tribal gear, then the implications of racism start to become apparent, especially with how the staff were told how to act. Savagely. Not only did Disney steal land, but also made the locals embarrass themselves all for their corporate greed. This part is disputed since no one really could tell you how long it's been. However, some sources claim that the park was open for only one day, while others say it's been a whole week. Either way, it was an extremely short amount of time, with the whole island suddenly being told to shut down without any warning. Yes, there were many different controversies surrounding the island, but there were still so many visitors who wanted to go to the resort park, so this decision to suddenly close down, causing everyone to permanently leave the island, was strange. That is when the story really begins, and I'll be explaining this part extremely quickly as well. Imagine the normal Disney parks with the restaurants, shops, the merch, and various attractions. All of that is now abandoned and completely messed up. That is when this person, the main character of the story, decided to fly down to the island in order to take some pictures of the area and maybe find some cool merch that is no longer owned by anyone. If this was left behind, might as well sell it online for a pretty penny, since people will go crazy for limited edition merch. That is when they find a door leading to a stairway going downstairs with a sign saying, "Mascots only, thank you." Most, if not all, the merch was taken or destroyed by the angry locals after this place was shut down, so the door that still had a lock was probably the only place that wasn't looted. Breaking open the door, they decide to go deeper. And down the dark stairway they go. Once they make it to the first room, they see the fluorescent lights actually still working, though they were flickering and some were pretty much broken, most likely powered by some sort of generator. Continuing forward, there was a door that said Character Prep 1. Inside was basically a gold mine. The controversial loincloths and tribal outfits, along with the other iconic costumes that we know and love today. However, there was a Mickey Mouse costume in the very center of the room for some reason. Instead of being the regular black and red that we're so used to, it seemed to be white and blue. Ignoring it for now, they find a Donald Duck costume headpiece, which they pick up only to have something drop. Looking down was the shattered remains of a human skull. getting justifiably scared and panicking, they start backing away until the Mickey Mouse in the middle of the room starts getting up. They took this single picture before running away. You might be thinking that I explained the story in quite a lot of detail, considering how long this section was, but trust me, this is a heavy oversimplification of events, only talking about the more important sections like the reason why the park could have closed down and the source of the iconic picture of photo-negative Mickey Mouse that the games were based on. Now that we explained what exactly this game is inspired by, let's go back in time. Way back in time. This might get a little confusing explaining a timeline of events, but let's start with the very first original demo of this game, which would be released on December 1st, 2014. Now, the series is considered one of the first FNAF fan games ever made, with a lot of the reasoning for this probably due to it being the most popular at that time. Let's face it though, around the release of the first original game, a lot, and I mean a lot of FNAF clones were being pumped out like crazy. Just taking the base FNAF formulas and essentially putting new characters in the place of the animatronics. Most of the time just being popular mainstream characters like Sonic, Mario, or something similar. But what if we take a cool creepypasta and somehow incorporate it into a game? Well, there was a mod simply called the Creepypasta mod that I found on a channel called Risk Rim, released on October 13th, 2014, where they take the stories like Ben Drowned, Rainbow Factory, and Tails Doll while just basically reskinning the experience. The original game was deleted, so I can't tell you the original date it was published, but at least we now know that there was other FNAF fan games way before Treasure Island. Just remember, this game I'm currently going to be describing was made in 2014, only 4 months after the original Five Nights at Freddy's was released. The graphics, they're a little outdated. The way I like to review older games isn't really checking out their visuals, since most of the time, especially with the first entry of a series, the graphics are not that well made due to developers still being new to game development. However, I personally don't mind the graphics of this game all that much, since in my opinion, especially around that time period, it really stood out due to it not being a complete FNAF clone. If you couldn't tell or just don't remember, a lot of FNAF fan games in 2014 would just steal a lot of the assets from the original and just change a few things. Couple tweaking of graphics, and there you go, a copy and paste clone. While there were some that tried to add some new character designs, others chose to just blatantly rip off the original. Most of the time, even if they weren't stealing the game assets, they would just go for the standard doors, lights, and camera features that the first game was so iconic for. Here, however, don't quote me on this, but it seemed as if most, if not all, the assets used within this game were completely made by the developers, which is something I could definitely admire. Things such as the goofy mask on the floor to the little game details that express that this is from the Abandoned by Disney Creepypasta, like the mascot's only door sign and Donald Duck's head on the floor. Things such as that really causes this game to have a lot of charm that not a lot of early fan games had during that time. Though, the only real complaint I really did have was the game's resolution not being able to be changed or tweaked without stretching the game's quality. I may not be amazing at editing videos, but at least I tried to use the best quality gameplay footage for you all, so please excuse this section for being a little wonky. Like I said multiple times, I don't want to talk about the graphics all that much for this part, but let's check out the jump scares that would happen if you stayed on the menu screen for too long.
Wanna see my head come off?
Yeah. Were the jump scares within this game good? Nope. But were they entertaining? Definitely. I may have not thought that they were scary or even good quality wise, but I sure did laugh when Oswald came on screen. Let's talk about the actual gameplay of each night now. Night 1, we get this amazing voice acting as the phone guy.
Hey buddy, it's Greg here. Hey so sorry again for making you do this. You are an intern after all.
If they turn on the bass of this call just a little bit, it actually wouldn't be that bad. One of the first nights, only one animatronic, or in this game, only one suit, as they're referred to as, is after us. Photo Negative Mickey, who is based on the original picture taken from the Creepypasta. The gameplay that most of these earlier FNAF clones followed the exact same formula, which, like I said, was doors, lights, and camera features. Here though, we will need to watch out for PN Mickey in the camera systems, which don't have any power within the demo. When he appears on our left or right within the office, we will need to go back to the camera systems in order to shut off a camera. I actually enjoyed this feature quite a bit since during this time, not a lot of fan games changed the gameplay. It is kind of like an early example of the audio lures that FNAF 3 would be using within its own gameplay, since the shutting off a camera is used to make a loud sound to lure them away. Although a lot more basic since you could use any single camera. It was still a unique feature for that time period though. What was a cool thing at first is these voice lines that PN Mickey would say throughout the night.
Hey, wanna see my head come off?
These were something that I did enjoy at first since the "wanna see my head come off" line was taken directly from the Creepypasta itself. They quickly became annoying though since they would get repeated every 10 seconds, at least within my own gameplay. Oswald is a character that you should really pay attention to, and is the single most infuriating character within the whole series. Let me try to explain. In the first design, he's a black armless rabbit, and if you couldn't tell, almost every location is a dark area, especially the office. Photo Negative Mickey very much has bright colors that are easy to notice, but when Oswald is in your office, you most likely will not be able to notice him, causing you to easily be jump scared by him quite a bit. It's not like he has an annoying gimmick like needing to rewind a music box, since all you need to do to make him disappear is shut off the camera like Mickey's. It's just the fact that he's so hard to notice due to the purposely dark colors that even if you do notice him, it's probably too late. Disembodied, fun name, and fun suit is actually just a Donald Duck head, which we could see in the cameras. He doesn't actually cause us to lose the game directly, but instead will just teleport on top of your desk in order to make a really loud quacking sound, which did make me panic the first time. It's the same exact feature of needing to shut off a camera in order to make them go away. Although repetitive, the different mechanics of each suit did make them feel kind of different. Plus, incorporating a Donald Duck head since it matches the story was just honestly such a cool design choice. And after the second night, well, the demo stops there, so as a beginning concept, let me just say, for a 2014 game, I think this was pretty decent. It definitely tried to be different from any other fan game during that time, due to it creating new concepts as well as creating mechanics that were never really explored before. Though the gameplay was buggy, with opening up the cameras sometimes just not opening up when you tried lifting them, or just spazzing out for no reason. Graphics wise, yeah, it wasn't the best, but I definitely did enjoy the cartoonish early versions since there was a very certain charm to them. You play this game today and you get so much nostalgia from remembering earlier FNAF games. I absolutely loved that feeling. So, I said the timeline could get confusing, right? Well, although the game history was recorded, the events within does get quite messy. Just a quick thank you to all those who made this wiki, since researching this video would have been nearly impossible without it. Everything we just currently described was the very first release and the very first demo of this game. So let's move on to the remastered versions. January 11th, 2015. TBMHC, or The Button Machine Hides Codes, was a simple button minigame people could try out that was going to be incorporated in a future update of the game. Then, in January 26, 2015, we would get the official first remastered demo of the game, which added quite a bit of content. And by content, I just mean more characters and extra nights. The first two nights were relatively the same except for the inclusion of the face, or as I like to refer to him as, Play-Doh Mickey. It's literally what he looks like. Who will appear off screen in some vents, who will then start to make some thumping sounds, like he's crawling through them. When he's done crawling around, he will appear in front of us in the office. We simply need to treat him like Golden Freddy and just flip up the cameras. If we don't, he will give us a jump scare, and oh my god. I love these jump scares so much. Night 3, we will get to meet Goofy, but without his head. I'm not even going to attempt to say what the name they changed him to, since... yeah, you could pronounce that yourself. Out of all the characters, this one seems to be the most unique and is honestly one of my favorites. Nothing about him is truly unsettling, but the fact that he's just a headless suit walking around gives him extra points for just being... Goofy. With such a unique design, we have an equally unique way of trying to get rid of him. Simply shut off one of the cameras. Again. Yeah. As cool as this mechanic was for the first few nights, repeating it for every single suit does get repetitive, but that's alright in my opinion due to this just being a demo and not the finished product. Photo Negative Mini is one of the more uglier designs, and honestly the creepiest in my opinion. Why does she have human teeth? Who would even want to design something like this? The game over screen for her isn't animated and it's just her staring at you, which I think is even more disturbing due to her freakish design. This design wasn't even objectively good, but the older graphics along with the teeth made it so unsettling to me, which admittedly made me like her. Hopefully they don't change her design in the future since this was actually gross, but in a good way. There was this rare screen that we could sometimes see of a character simply called God, who has no gameplay significance at all. Though they did appear in a teaser image with spikes going through them. Not sure if I could show this on YouTube, but I'm not taking any chances. This just seemed to be an Easter egg referring to the original Creepypasta. Another Easter egg seemed to be Pluto the dog, which could be seen throughout the office, though he doesn't do anything. If he does show up, he'll just chill in the corner of the office for the entire night, so at least you'll have someone to keep you company. The beta design of him is just... amazing. Something you gotta give this game props for is it definitely had its own unique style. Although nowhere near a finished product, it added a lot of new characters and a lot of personality into the game. It really felt like it was shaping up to be something different. February 1st, 2015. This gives some extra enlightenment, which once again was another downloadable minigame that gave you some little taste of what the developers want to add for the final release. I might just be dumb, but I don't really understand where they were trying to go for here. There was a lot of lights and switches, so most likely it was going to be some after night puzzle we had to solve. Okay, I guess. April 1st, 2015. The very first official trailer would be released, though I couldn't find the original. There was a re-upload on the channel called Radiance. In it would be a lot of dark areas and not really showing off the game itself, with the two gameplay mechanics explained being the shutting down the camera systems and a new one of us needing to hide. June 23rd, 2015, the second and third remastered versions would finally be released. The graphics of these new games would definitely be improved in my opinion, though not that much. What's interesting is that the headless Goofy was actually planned to put on the Donald Duck head before sprinting to your office, needing you to shut off the cameras in order to prevent that from happening. Now, the second remaster did change a lot of the locations, though it didn't really change much with the gameplay loop as it was essentially the same. With even more locations to flip through, it meant the enemies could take advantage of this by being a lot more aggressive, since there'd be more cameras you could shut off. After beating the first night, we would get this cutscene. So, like I said, this was just a demo, don't worry. No need to try and judge it too harshly. Not only that, you have to understand that the very first demo would become insanely popular, almost rivaling the original games in views, almost being the key word since this small indie game about an oversized teddy bear was pretty massive at that time. With the two main creators that would help spark interest with not only the Treasure Island series, but multiple other FNAF fan games being these small YouTubers that you might have heard of called Markiplier and Corey X Kenshin. With so many eyes on this project, this could have created a lot of stress to create a game that could satisfy the players, but as a developer in their earlier parts of their career, this kind of expectation could have been mind-numbing, stressful, and even damaging their mental state over time. Even Tyler, the creator of the Return to Freddy series, suffered from this kind of pressure. Game development is not easy, and earlier projects like this shouldn't be judged that harshly. Now, the phone calls definitely felt higher quality, though they were extremely quiet for some reason.
Anyway, we've already set up cameras for you to keep an eye on the place, and more importantly, we need you to keep a close eye on his suit for us. You'll see him lying down, he's photo negative.
So, after night cutscenes was definitely something this game was trying to make happen. I think it's trying to create some sort of story, but the quality of it is kind of wonky, so it's kind of hard to see what's happening. It seemed that the normal Mickey was getting William Aftoned, I think. But Night 3 actually changes things quite a bit. Instead of staying in the office, we actually have to explore the island to look for someone called Henry. We don't need to beat Night 3 to 6 AM, but instead just need to make it to 3 AM before we make it to this point-and-click adventure style minigame. There's no walking animation, so the constant scene changing made things feel weird. But like I said, this is just a demo, and the concept of adding a midnight walking section was extremely ambitious, so I could definitely admire this change of direction. In execution though, this was a really confusing section since I was aimlessly clicking around, hoping to make it somewhere, slowly collecting keys and tapes before finally making it to the next night. I do admit I did get lost in this area, but that was just an issue that some polishing could easily fix. The Night 4 cutscene was basically... I guess we discovered the origins of the face. William Afton until this character gave him life, I guess. Maybe they're supposed to be the story's version of the puppet, but who knows. Finally, Night 5, we get this beautifully animated cutscene as well. Yep, this is seriously it. No sound, no music, just some lines of text of someone claiming to be God who is poorly photoshopped into the game. Then Night 6 isn't really Night 6, but instead is Day 1, where we hear some people in the distance, most likely at this location when it was still open. I absolutely adore this final cutscene. I don't know why, but the text just feels like some sort of Wattpad fanfic. Five Nights at Treasure Island could walk, so Tyler's quote-unquote book could fly. Overall, this game definitely had an idea of what it wanted to do, with the elements definitely there. Adding a hiding under the desk mechanic while also making some sort of lore to follow. Though the lore just felt like a teenager making a story, so I can't really fault them for any weird parts within it. I must say that the inclusion of the cutscenes after each night was something I did enjoy. Scott had his famous After Night minigames designed to be 8-bit, with this game wanting to express its own story in its own different way. Although not perfect, you could even call it not good as well. The design choices of what they were trying to go for was definitely present. Still, a buggy mess to play and quite challenging with how many characters there were. Now, there weren't an infinite amount of cameras. Every time you shut off one camera, it takes some time before you could turn it back on. So when a lot of the suits come after you back to back, you'll slowly run out of chances to make them disappear. All in all, it was a demo that was trying to push its own unique ideas out there. The third remastered version, however, takes out photo negative Mickey, Goofy, and some other characters as well. If you couldn't tell, photo negative Mickey was pretty important for the original story of the Creepypasta, so taking out these characters was a pretty controversial take. Not a lot of people like this idea. And honestly, it was a weird demo that we're just gonna be skipping over and pretending doesn't exist, just because. September 10th, 2016. The 4.0 Remastered was announced, but had to be cancelled due to backlash. Not a lot is known about this version of the game since it wasn't really talked about. I tried to find out more about this quote-unquote backlash, but couldn't really find any information related to it. Though this game was starting to get extremely rushed due to the developer wanting to capitalize on the hype surrounding another game called The Nightmare Before Disney, which was basically a parody version of the Treasure Island games that were previously made. Although the fourth remastered version wasn't released, on October 28th, 2017, the 5.0 remastered version would be put out, skipping the fourth entry entirely. Beginning the game, we get this intro, which is a message to someone. Actually entering the game seems to be a point-and-click adventure, but with giant arrow keys, which honestly just distract you from the whole experience. The map definitely is an upgrade, with it being much more smoother to move around in, using the number keys to let us scroll around much quicker. Not only that, the graphics seem to have gone through a massive overhaul, incorporating a flashlight but no doors. I'm not exactly sure how I feel about this feature. On one hand, it definitely felt more interactive since we would need to be flashing our lights at the suits in order to see where they are. On the other hand, I think I preferred seeing the suits just pop up in our office without the need of using the lights. Now, as much as I did enjoy the game's visuals, there wasn't much to do within this demo since not a lot of the suits are present, meaning the end result of this game could have made the mechanics of the other suits that were introduced much more different than they originally were in the second game. Though that is all just speculation since many of the suits were actually present within this game. Now, that was most of the information involved with all the demos created throughout the years, ranging from the very first all the way to the weird 5th remastered version. That all led up to what I consider to be the final release of Five Nights at Treasure Island. December 23rd, 2020. Five Nights at Treasure Island. This was a game that I actually genuinely enjoyed playing, though it was quite frustrating at first. Hi. Are we... What? Dying over legal? I would agree. Oh. And over. I don't know how we got here, but we did. No. And over again. I initially thought this was the first and only game within the series since I had no idea about anything involving it, nor its complex history. And when playing it for the very first time with no knowledge of it, I had no idea what I was doing, so I kept getting jump scared on repeat since chat kept giving me false information on purpose. Visually though, this was the best within the series and definitely could compete with other FNAF fan games out there. I loved The Office, and the fact that you could boop the Mickey Mouse bobblehead's nose made this game gain a lot of points for me. The camera system has been changed slightly, with the locations being much more fleshed out, having a lot more detail and Easter eggs being scattered all around. But the most important feature has to be the inclusion of the power being introduced. Within the earlier demos, power was something that was never really explored, but here, we can't just keep the cameras open or else they will drain pretty quickly. Not only that, but the lights within the office will also slowly drain the power. We could easily turn off the light bulb with the control key, though keeping it off for too long or spam turning it on and off will cause it to go out permanently. Without the lights, we cannot turn on the cameras, and without those, we cannot cause the suits to go away, meaning it's an automatic game over, unless you're a couple seconds away from 6 AM. Also, the controls within this game just feel overall much more smoother to play, using tab to open the camera, shift to stand up, and control to shut off the lights. All these together really made the gameplay feel coherent, especially after getting the muscle memory perfected. Let's backtrack a little bit to start talking about the actual story. Before, not gonna lie, you could have described it as cringe. However, when opening up this game, this is what we're gonna be introduced to.
You have one unheard message.
Hello? Jake? Hey there, this is Greg from the Supernatural Studies Association. I'm just leaving you a message to notify you that we have a position open that you might be interested in. A small one, but hey, it's intriguing nonetheless. Currently, my team is doing an investigation over at this abandoned island. You might be familiar with it. The locals refer to it as Treasure Island. We just need someone to look over the place for a few days and collect data for us while we get things ready over at base. Should be a simple task, an easy way to get credits too. Hopefully you're interested. Give me a call back as soon as possible. Bye.
The voice acting has drastically improved, the voice quality was perfected, and had a script that really let you know what was going on. This was a game that really felt like there was passion put behind it. Entering the first night, we get another phone call from a man named Greg that basically explains that we're investigating this place in order to watch over the suits. Something I never understood about the first two FNAF games is why are we, a security guard with presumably no personal connections with the pizzeria, staying to work in this location that we have seen had haunted animatronics, literally trying to kill us. However, in this game, we know why we are here. We are part of some sort of supernatural studies association. We know that these suits have something going on within them, and it's our job to collect data. We are someone called Jake, and just because we have no self-preservation, decided to, what I believe, be the guinea pig or bait while the others sit comfortably away from this haunted building as we are giving them information that they want. What's worse is they had another quote-unquote friend called Henry who was sent to the island beforehand who disappeared. So, yeah. The phone people in this game are absolutely horrible. This is also something that I always found interesting, as most FNAF fan games only ever had one phone guy, not multiple different people. Night 1 is relatively simple, as we only need to worry about photo negative Mickey, doing the same thing he's always known to do, walking around until he reaches your office. All we need to do for him is just turn off a random camera to make them disappear. Pretty simple. Now, guess what time it is? Our favorite cutscenes. Except this one is a lot more polished and much more cryptic. I believe we're looking through the eyes of Henry, the one who went missing while having blurry vision before we move on to the next night. This night's phone call is from Lisa, who essentially tells us that Greg lied to us since they stated that these suits were blind, while also saying that they also lied about fully knowing that these characters are suits since in reality, that's just an educated guess. We don't really know what these things are. Starting things off, disembodied becomes active. And oh wow, did they overhaul his design. Instead of just being a Donald Duck head that pops up on your desk, he's instead this melting mess that just resembles the head, even having these black tentacles that he uses to walk around. Overall, this design not only transforms the original, but also makes it much more creepy. Not only does his design change, but his mechanics slightly changes as well. He does still pop up in your office screaming extremely loudly so you could panic. However, he will now appear fully in front of your face instead of just safely away on your desk, making whenever he shows up just that much more terrifying. Oswald also starts walking around. I've said it once and I'll say it again. This thing has lost me so many attempts due to how hard he is to see in the office. That little face in the corner that I'm showing is him. On night 2, this isn't much of an issue since you could just stare at the door to see if he's there. However, as the nights progress, things start to go much more chaotic, much quicker. Don't worry, I'll be talking about all that soon. Once again, the Headless Goofy makes an appearance on night 3, but his mechanic is much more unique. When he appears in the office, he'll have one hand on top of your computer, towering over you. Instead of shutting off a camera, you'll need to hold control to make your character stand completely still. This is a pretty interesting interaction as it forces you to stand still looking at his character, and in later nights, this can be extremely stressful. At times, you'll be forced to hold control while seeing other characters pop into the room, knowing that you'll need to use the cameras, making you have to make a decision. Take the gamble that Goofy will disappear before you get jump scared by another suit, or try to quickly shut off a camera in order to go back to only focus on Goofy. The final suit active on his night is Impurity, which... I just wish they kept their old design. I like it, but at the same time, the old photo negative mini just felt like an iconic part of the series. The uncanny design of her teeth, everything about it just felt like it was unintentionally made to be scary, and I loved it. Instead, they swapped her out to be Impurity, which is basically Minnie but with missing eyes and no real mouth. They kept her non-existent mouth, just showing her teeth, but in my opinion, the original design was much creepier. Now, at the end of this night, things changed drastically. This was attempted in one of the previous demos, but it has been refined perfectly. We are now in Pirate Caverns, in a point-and-click horror adventure section, also providing us with some information in the corner. Obviously using a mouse to move around, having a flashlight to inspect the area, shift to use our camera flash, and control once again to stand still. In this first area, we are walking around until we encounter this elevator, with some pretty banging music. The atmosphere and graphics are made beautifully as well, as the sound of water dripping echoes in the distance, and the quiet ambience are so well designed, especially matched with our footsteps and flashlight sounds. It really makes you feel like you're alone here, but at the same time, you're not. It's a weird feeling to try to explain, but it made me have goosebumps. Every so often, two suits can appear. The face, which is the weird legless version of Mickey Mouse, who we'll need to flash away with our camera, with the second one being the Undying, a 1970s style Mickey Mouse suit with a much more dirtier appearance. Out of all the Mickey Mouse variants within not only this game but the whole series so far, this one I believe is done the best. He seems to be blind due to his eyes missing from his head, so the only way to make him go away is to simply stand still with control. Once we finally find the key for this section, we'll be able to open a locked door, which is when... Once again, this is most likely in the point of view of Henry, the one who disappeared for some reason. On night 4, we don't have any phone calls, so it is eerily quiet within the office. So let's talk about the only new arrival. The face needs us to shut off the lights for a bit. Now, this is something that I purposely left out until we got to this section. At this point, every single suit within this game, with the exception of a few, are now active. Shutting off the lights lets us know when most of the suits have entered the office, including Goofy for some reason, even though they don't have a head. This is a pretty good way to basically survey the area quickly, as their white glowing eyes makes it easier to see the darker looking suits, which includes Oswald. I hate this thing so much. As you could probably tell, a lot of times the suits will enter at the same time or right after one leaves, making this section a lot more stressful. At least most, not all of them, will make the floor creaking sound as they enter the office, making it slightly easier to know when to shut off a camera. This night isn't that difficult, thankfully, but that will soon change. At the end of this night, we will once again get another cutscene. Entering night 5, we will get a phone call which is a little... Yeah, so Golden Freddy vibes basically. Now, this is a night where the animatronics are most aggressive and where the Undying also becomes active. Having the same mechanic as Goofy, just stand still. With so many different suits, we will now need to be extremely proactive with our movements, as we will constantly be hearing different suits coming into our office and must act accordingly. Most of the time, we just need to shut off a camera, but with so many of them entering, soon you will run into the problem of not having a camera to shut off since they do have a recharge time. The best strategy to use that I found was to go in a big circle and hope you don't run out of cameras for a fresh new cycle. And if you do run out, then start using the ones in the middle. This was probably one of the most stressful experiences I've had while playing a fan game with how quick your reaction time needed to be. But with all of that, I really did enjoy the different mechanics being used while creating a claustrophobic and tight feeling. It really did feel as if I was being hunted down constantly and I was extremely helpless. Unable to do much except just hope that I'll be able to make it through the entire night in one piece. Along with the constant stressing and the dark ambience were the voice lines being present. These were present in the older demos, but much more frequent, making them more annoying than anything else. But here, they are barely used, with the quality of them being much higher.
How am I supposed to be? I thought you cared.
With these lines belonging to the various different suits scattered around. We didn't receive a real phone call first night, but we do get one once we beat it.
You have one unheard message.
Hey Jake, I'm a little late to notify you about this. My apologies. I'm just leaving you a message to let you know that we're gonna need more time. I know you probably want to get out of there, but there's been a few issues over here at base, and you're gonna have to stay at the island for a little bit longer. I'm super sorry, but there's nothing I can do about it. Just try and keep everything stable, and you'll be completely fine. I'm sure of it. I'll notify you when we're ready to pick you up as soon as possible. Thanks, and good night.
Absolutely terrifying image. Also, how horrible are these people, by the way? I already mentioned this before, but they know someone disappeared on this island, and we are now being told, hey, we know that you're probably terrified of these moving suits that very much look like they want to William Afton you, but you know what? Can you just stay a little longer? Anyways, night 6 is pretty easy. That's a lie. This phone call was a little different. Well, I'm not exactly sure if it's an actual phone call or a voice message since it's from Henry, the missing guy. He tells us that he found a code to this locked door which holds something that he and the team that sent us here we're looking for, being extremely cryptic of what it actually is, telling us to meet him there. This knight only has one suit that we have to worry about: Hourglass. I mentioned this before in a previous video, but a lot of fan games love to create a final boss or an animatronic that is just a combination of others. Anyways, Hourglass is basically every single suit combined into one, and honestly, it's probably the most terrifying. Its first design was a little different, being this green thing with an upside down head. Cool, I guess. Unlike Photo Negative Mini, I do appreciate the new redesign of Hourglass, since I would have probably not been able to take the original seriously at all. It really is an amazing design, with it being a melting mess of an abomination mixed with every single suit. Though I just wish it had more elements of the others, maybe being their clothes tattered on it or something more. Either way, I still did really enjoy it. With it being every single suit, with the exception of the face and the undying, its mechanics change with the location it's in. I won't explain exactly what each location means, but just know that we have to incorporate the lights, camera feature, and standing still all in one. Though it is extremely beneficial to use the cameras to your advantage, since the location he's entering the office within will let us know ahead of time which method to use when defending against them. What I absolutely adore about this thing are its voice lines, as it's a mixture of all the previous suits as well. Last thing before I move on, the concept art of Hourglass is amazing. So glad they decided to use him for the final product. Honestly, if you're curious, I would really highly recommend looking at the concept art of every single of these designs, as most of them look really well made. Now, this section was pretty difficult if you couldn't understand his attack patterns, which could be confusing at times. However, after some trial and error, plus a Google search with a guide, you should be able to beat this knight with ease. Which, once again, takes us back to Pirate's Cavern, where we're told to go to the bottom floor in order to meet up with Henry, using this code on the locked door. So, once we finally get there and open this mysterious door, we make it to this vault where inside is this drawing board?
It's here, my children.
What does that mean? No idea. Was like Bendy and the Ink Machine, where there was something that let the drawings come to life but warped them into be monsters. Possibly, but who cares for now. Let's jam out to the amazing end screen music, since it honestly was pretty well made, especially with it using the old-fashioned style of art. Now, I absolutely loved what the series was definitely trying to do. The story from this final game isn't that fleshed out yet, but is definitely open to theories and speculation, which is one of the reasons why the first two games became so popular. Thank you, MatPat. Not only was the story engaging, the phone calls were a lot better than I would have expected. Not going to lie, most FNAF fan games do try to incorporate some form of a phone guy, but a lot of the time, these just end up sounding cringy or just low quality. Not at the fault of the developers, since it might be one of their first projects they're working on, but at the same time, it would be hard to listen to them. The graphics were also something that surprised me, since they were a lot better than I previously expected as well. I mean, after playing through the demos and expecting a similar quality, can you really blame me? What I love about playing through these kinds of games is seeing the developers' own personal growth. Weird example. really weird example. But in the Return to Freddy series, Tyler made these two messes of a game, with one of them technically being so bad that it was actually illegal to play. However, as you continue to play the series, you could really see the growth in game design that he was going through, with the graphics, gameplay, and sound design actually being improved every single time. That same thing applies here, except the final product was actually something people could play and enjoy universally. Since admittedly, this series is a guilty pleasure of mine, and I don't really blame anyone for not being able to enjoy it. For me, playing the same night each time feels boring, but with the changes to create a point-and-click adventure in the middle of the third night, it really sparks your interest within the game even more to see where this game is headed. I usually have a 3-night rule to see whether or not a game is going to be good or not, which has been pretty effective since most FNAF fan games, and even in the FNAF series itself, the third night is where the difficulty usually will spike up, some more than others. I don't expect every fan game to be like the Joy of Creation, making whole new sections every night, but do something that will entice the players and introduce new mechanics. Whether this is the introduction of a new character that will need a new mechanic to defend against, or by switching up the gameplay drastically like the point-and-click adventure that the Treasure Island series does. These changes allows the game to feel fresh, and not only does it cause the player want to see more, but also adds a lot of replayability. With the intensity increasing each night and even creating this mini boss battle on night 6, this was an experience that I could definitely recommend others to try out, since honestly, this was some of the most fun I've had while playing a fan game. And with this, we are finally able to finish the entire Five Nights at Treasure Island series. We've talked about the demos, to the game, all the way to the finished product. Finally. This is never a good sign. Hello?
Hello?
You never call for a good reason, what's up? Uh-huh. Wait. What do you mean, check the game section in the wiki? 1 second. It's okay. I love you too, phone guy. Okay, never mind, I lied. Based on this script length, this video is most likely going to be around 40 to 50 minutes long. And if I somehow try to add Oblitus Casa, I think that's how you say it, the various different Nightmare Below Disney games, Addenum Discovery Island, Five Nights at Red Island, Treasure Island 2016 to 2018, Sister Location, Classic Mode, Adventure Edition, Chaos at Treasure Island, most of the other cancelled projects, and the Oddity series, this video might take 3 hours long. If you've been on the channel for quite a while, you know that I love to make shorter form content for you all to digest easily. So instead, I decided to make things easier for me and much more enjoyable for you all. Instead of making one giant video that will probably take like 4 hours, I'll be making this one talking about the original game and a separate video talking about the sequels, spin-offs, and cancelled projects, since this series is absolutely massive. Surprisingly. I feel so bad for my editor. Sorry ahead of time. Thank you all to those who watched all the way to the end. It really means a lot since making these videos takes quite a long time. If you like this video, like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. What did you enjoy or find frustrating about these games? I bet you could easily find something to comment down below. In the meantime, I've been talking for an extremely long time, so I'm going to go take a nap. Peace. For those who decide to support the channel by becoming members, thank you to Lambio, Force Skin Eater, Ori, Athena Raton, Brian Strix, Abia Martinez, Nightmare, X Fled, Lenny Wolf, Duck, Krev, and RYJBR03. Thank you once again for all those who became members. Love you all.